Peace and greetings, YouTube. This is Ras Timotheos, High Priest of the Temple Divine. I'm here to bring information about another revelation I had with the Cannabis Sacrament, according to a couple esoteric biblical books, I guess you could say, the Biblios, some papyri, just some information that I found useful and that I wanted to share with others, my fellow priests, my fellow Idrin. So I want to begin reading from my newest published book here, The Temple Divine, Revelations of Mystical Rastafari. And in this segment, we're going to be speaking on spiritual use of cannabis as a sacrament. But first of all, I want to speak about how it's used and the reason. So, the true spirituality, spirituality in cannabis, the spiritual use of cannabis refers to the consciousness that relates man and woman to their higher selves and to the universal perspective of their realities. Spirituality is the deeper reflection of self within the universe as life and animation within the universe. It is through spirituality that the mind and body evolve in harmony with the laws of nature. Spirituality involves partaking in the elements of Mother Nature and involving ideas of divine life, force, principle within one's life, and it becomes part of their reality. Spirituality comes out of the acts which one partakes in order to know or realize the truth and atonement or at one-ment with the universal perspective of life. Spiritual acts involve meditation, purification, and other regeneration and other practices of regeneration of the mind and body of the practitioner. These acts are done with a specific intent, and in turn, it is expressed as a ritual or ceremony. So these acts allow one to reach atonement with their universal selves and that spiritual state of mind. The spiritual factor about cannabis is that it is a product of the divine creative force. So this plant is grown from seed, and out of the mother principle, it bears fruit for man and woman to eat and to know the truth of our existence, to be used as food for energy so we can have an existence. The spiritual notion of the use of cannabis may present itself from many points of views, many ways, and it stems from the consciousness of the one who's experiencing. The intent of the using cannabis as a spiritual substance is a normal act of man and woman wanting to better understand themselves and Mother Nature, their realities, their reflection of themselves in the universe. The use of cannabis as a spiritual substance is performed through personal will of spiritual practitioner and their intent. The whole cannabis plant itself is a representation of life. Cannabis has the ability to become a spiritual messenger or teacher / spiritual guide according to one's beliefs and spiritual understanding. All plants which bear fruits and seeds are a product of Mother Nature and are created for the use of man and woman to further evolve life force within this planet and within the universe. That was a little bit out of this book, The Revelations of Mystical Rastafari. So now I want to read a little bit out of this book here called Healing Magic of Cannabis. You guys can see that by Dr. Beverley Potter, Dan Joy. So it says, cannabis can help regenerate faith. So cannabis is an entheogen. This term popularized largely through the efforts of botanical researcher, Dr. Jonathan Ott, means literally generating God within. So we're talking about theology here, spirituality, and refers to substances that can facilitate this religious experience and the feelings of spirituality. Stronger psychedelics like peyote, mescaline, psilocybin, and LSD, which I don't recommend, but are also entheogens. The psychoactivity of cannabis can assist in quieting the mind to contact the inner source of faith and hope. Cannabis aids in eliciting the relaxation and integral to spiritual, meditative, and contemplative techniques, and its mental effects are associated with the intuitive, imagistic, non-rational, non-linear aspect of the psyche, which flow faith and hope. The tradition of using cannabis as an entheogen stretches back thousands of years. In India, cannabis is associated with the Hindu god Shiva. Bhang, a drink made from cannabis, is considered the heavenly guide and the food of the gods. But by certain Hindu sects who have long used the plant as an adjunct to meditation and the study of scripture. It says yogis recount using bhang to center their thoughts on the eternal, and many Hindu saints use cannabis for fixing the mind on God. Fakirs and ascetics, India's wandering practitioners of extreme religious austerity, which what they do is practice a form of renunciation. And I think I've made videos pertaining to this act of renunciation, but I feel that I need to bring this matter up. It said they use cannabis to facilitate communion with their deities. The Japanese traditionally burn cannabis in marriage ceremonies to drive away evil spirits, and members of mystical Sufi sect of Islam use cannabis for spiritual insight. So simply here it's explaining the entheogenic aspect from the Hindu perspective of the use of cannabis. Now, I want to read a little bit about cannabis as a sacrament, as a spiritual sacrament, from another book that I have written. It was written by the Temple Divine, Ras Timotheos, as well as this other one right here, The Revelations of Mystical Rastafari. It says here, spiritual sacrament. It says canu, or cannabis. Canu is the spiritual name for cannabis here in the Temple Divine. So canu is a spiritual sacrificial offering unto the masculine and feminine principles of self and the universe. These principles exist within man and woman equally and are balanced through the spiritual centers of the physical body. Cannabis is offered as a burnt sacrificial offering upon the altar. Now, the altar signifies our consciousness. So our consciousness is the altar. Also, there's a physical altar, but our consciousness is an altar as well. So the offering of the sacramental smoke is performed by the priests of the spiritual congregations of spiritual thoughts and consciousness. The sacrament gives man spiritual insight or sight and divine wisdom, or divina sapientia. This sight or insight and wisdom allows him to heal and understand his or her relationship to the universe and or the ka, the spirit, the essence of the soul, S-O-L, soul, or the sun within, the soul, the solar system within. So this, the plant becomes a way of spiritual communion with the universal reality that exists within all man and woman. So when man and woman recognize this reality within them through the plant, the plant becomes recognized as such and is seen as a universal sacrament to all that witnesses the truth through its spiritual substance, just as could be affirmed with multiple religions. We just mentioned 2 other ones. And we know in Rastafari, or Rastafari, we understand that cannabis is a sacrament as well that is used to allow us in reasoning sessions to access our higher selves, the unity with the divine mind, to communicate with the divine. So cannabis is offered as a link between the universal mind and the priest, and this involves a balance of masculine and feminine principles, as well as the partaking in the spiritual substance that resides within all living things. The burning of incense inspires the priest to mentally acknowledge and observe through a spiritual consciousness. The inspiration of the divine wisdom, or also caused by entheogen, causing the divine to be realized within. The inspiration of divine wisdom is incorporated into consciousness and evolves as perfect understanding, or also in Rastafari, it's known as perfect overstanding, the divine overstanding. Fire, when you burn the herb, when you burn the sacrament, when the incense is burned, the fire represents the male principle, and the cannabis itself, the cannabis flowers represents the female, because they come from, more than likely, they come from the female plant, which bears seeds, which bears fruit. So together, they form spiritual awareness. Observing cannabis in a sacramental way allows the priest to build a covenant with the universal creative source and the higher self. So divine offerings and sacrifices are usually made by fire. And when I say sacrifices, I mean in the terms of renunciation, in terms of realizing that this physical world is not the only thing that actually exists. It's not the only true reality. This physical material world, our physical body, is only temporal. But we ourselves, our true selves, who we truly are part of a higher aspect, a universal aspect, something that is forever living, something that can never die, because it isn't manifested in a sense that you can perceive it as being manifest, but what you perceive is the manifestation of it. So it's one of those paradox understandings. So the divine offerings, or a sacrifice, is you realizing that you are not of this world, rather you are of a spiritual world. You are just in this world carrying out your works of the divine world. Now, to offer up sacrifices mean that you are willing to give up this lower self. You're willing to give up this limited self, or this limited understanding of who you are. You're willing to give that up. You're willing to sacrifice that limited understanding and to humble yourself to the knowledge of truth, to the higher reality which you are. And so the divine offerings is usually made by fire, or usually made by burning down Babylon, burning down our ignorance, burning down our sense-conscious attachment to this world. And so the fire is essentially essential to the offerings because of the ability to cause a change in state of properties, or a change in the state of consciousness. So these changes represent a transformation of character from